on video also? Are you in a place where you can unmute yourself, or do we need to unmute? You're good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes. Can everybody else?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So the live stream is set up and I'm going to start the webinar and let the attendees in.
Okay.
You're all set, patients?
Thank you, Reagan. Good afternoon, everybody. It's September 17th, 4 p.m. This is the Ogunquit Conservation Commission meeting. I'm Patience Sundaresan, the chair of Conservation Commission. I'd like to do a roll call now. Laura Breen Brogan, you are here. George Cundiff, you are here. Valerie Kaufman is not present today. Bill Lee.
Here.
You are here. Pamela Sawyer has for an excused absence. And Doug Meyer.
Yes, I'm
You
here.
are here. I see you. Can you just, yes, thank you. Okay. Let's see. The last meeting, I would like to just read our purpose. I think that, excuse me, that's helpful from time to time, especially for people who may not have watched the meetings before or may not know exactly what we are meant to be all about. Our purpose is established through Title 13 of the Ogunquit Municipal Code, the Conservation Commission Ordinance, which I believe was enacted in 2003 or the end of 2003, 2004, the same time, the same year and time as that comprehensive plan was enacted. And I think this came out of that comp plan. So Chapter 13, 102, our purpose: the town of Ogunquit shall establish a conservation commission to implement the policy recommendations of the comprehensive plan to preserve and protect valuable natural and wildlife resources, to mitigate the loss of open spaces, particularly along the shoreline and adjacent to wetlands. So that is our purpose. And let's look at the agenda and move into section 2, which is approval of the minutes. We had the January minutes, January 2020. Did people have a chance to look at those minutes? And are there any comments or motion to approve?
Motion to approve the January minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
George seconds that. All in favor of approving the January 2020 minutes?
All right,
George?
Bill.
Okay, roll call. Bill, are you a yes?
Said aye, yes.
Okay, good. So 5 people in favor. Okay, number 3 is our report section, and I just want to fill you in briefly if you didn't see the meeting. I appeared at the Budget Review Committee meeting in order to talk about the $25,000 land use fund. The Budget Committee was already in the throes of discussing a lot of CIP issues, and they were discussing the land acquisition, also known as the Old Boston Farm, as you're all aware of, the 157 acres up on the North Village Road. And what came out of that, without my input actually, but they had a presentation by Tim Smith. And Doug, I think you were there, but I don't think you presented. They had quite a vigorous discussion, and the Budget Review Committee voted unanimously to support the town putting on the warrant the request for a donation of money for this purchase by Great Works Regional Land Trust. They recommended putting on the ballot the $75,000 from the land use fund that's already in the town, and then bonding the other $225,000. So that was, I thought that was a good thing. And the additional $25,000 did not get discussed. It was clear that this was as far as they were going, and this is looking to be a tight year in a lot of people's opinions. So that item then went to the select board, and I believe that they also voted in favor, but they also had some other not restrictions, but they have some conditions on it as well. But so that should be appearing on the ballot when they finally sign the warrant. I had also written a letter to the select board about putting on the ballot our ordinance change, our language change. I don't think we've had a meeting since that. So if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry, but we had decided we wanted to change the definition of conservation land as it appears in the ordinance, because it only refers to land held by the town of Ogunquit, or as the lawyers would say, held in fee by the town of Ogunquit or owned by the town of Ogunquit. And there may be times such as this recent time, maybe we would want to recommend land being held in conservation that's not necessarily owned by the town of Ogunquit. So that was a recommendation that we put forth that had been worked on by Doug and Pam. Heath, I spoke to Heath about it before it went to the meeting, and he had spoken with the town attorney and indicated her indication was that it would change the entire ordinance. It was problematic. She wanted to go through the rest of the ordinance and work, and thought it would be better if we worked on the whole thing. So I did not then present that or, request that they put that on the ballot. I agreed that we should probably get the town attorney's input and see how much further we can go in working on that ordinance. Was there one other thing? Oh, and we had also sent a statement that we were in favor of the conservation land, or the land being held in conservation by the Great Works Regional Land Trust. We did not make any recommendation whatsoever about any money. But also, as I mentioned a minute ago, I believe the select board did move that onto when they sign the warrant, that will be on there as a ballot question, warrant article for the voters. Okay, so any questions about any of that?
Yeah, Patience, if I don't mean to interrupt you at all.
No, please.
But I just wanted to point out that what the existing ordinance reads is that it's either owned in fee or by easement. And so that this old Boston land, the town will hold an easement on it, which guarantees Ogunquit residents access to the land in perpetuity.
Okay, thank you for pointing that
So
out.
I think that's covered.
Yes, then technically we could recommend it then.
Yeah, well, what I'm talking about is the 75,000 that's in conservation land will qualify according to the existing ordinance.
Right. Okay, that's good. Okay, I think that's all I have as far as those, any report. Unless anybody else wants to give any reports on anything. Laura?
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
I didn't see the select board meeting this week, so it will be appearing on the ballot, and you said with a stipulation. Does anyone know what the stipulations are? Or we can table this if it's not the right time to discuss.
No, that's right. I personally I didn't hear the entire meeting. And I don't think they voted yet on the final, they haven't signed the final warrant. So I'm not sure what the conditions are, but it's probably whatever they voted on at that meeting.
Okay.
If you wanted to listen to it, I think you would hear it in the meeting probably. Does anybody else know? Doug, do you know?
Yeah, well, I didn't see the meeting itself, but I was at that special meeting for the public input. And it was voted once again by both the Budget Review Committee and then the Select Board voted 5-0 in favor of it. Their stipulation was that they were all right with the Great Works Regional Land Trust owning the property as long as there was an easement held by the town that would guarantee the Ogunquit residents would have access in perpetuity, and that there would be traditional uses available for that land.
Okay. Thanks,
I
Doug.
think that those, yeah, I think those are the only stipulations. I hope they are. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Doug.
Sure.
Okay, let's move on to ongoing business 4.0. We've been asked by the planning board, and we will be asked from time to time to provide input from a conservation perspective on various applicants and applications that are coming up before the planning board. So recently, some of us appeared at a site walk on Tuesday on Pine Hill North regarding a proposed subdivision. It's not in the total application phase at this point. It is, I believe, what's called a sketch plan application, which is where the proposed applicant and the planning board, the applicant lays out what it is they want to do, and they get feedback from the planning board and other interested parties, such as abutters and, of course, the Conservation Commission. So Doug was there, I was there, Bill Lee was there, Pam Sawyer and Valerie. I think we were all there, but George and Laura. And we were there for about an hour and a half and did a walkthrough. There's a substantial wetland there. It's not delineated very well in the area of the property, but there is also that plan that we all have. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we appeared at that, and I don't know what the next phase will be from the planning board. If the applicant submits another, their next layer of applications with amendments, they know, the planning board knows we want to weigh in again from, as this makes its way through the planning board, assuming they continue. And so then we'll likely be asked again to provide some input on this. Doug, do you or Bill want to add anything about attending the walkthrough, the site visit? Or not at this time?
Sure. Yes, it was nice to see such a good turnout and input, and some good weather. Upon hearing what the engineer, if he was an engineer, I don't recall his name, the gentleman for the developer spoke about the property being, obviously it was surveyed. They had stakes out for certain areas of different units, but also there was some diagonally striped flagging tape that supposedly was on the wetland boundary. I was just wondering who did the delineation. I think they said it was somebody from New Hampshire. I was just wondering if in fact they took and analyzed core samples periodically, and at what points, and if those are corresponding to the tape. I think also in that regard, it might be a good idea to suggest that they have an independent certified wetland scientist delineator do the same. It's not a terribly large job, and it's something that they should be able to accomplish in a matter of hours with a soil core and just casual observation. Yeah.
So Bill, are you saying we should recommend that to the planning board for that?
I think if one is concerned about wetlands and having that wetland boundary, which is obviously very important for any potential development and our impact, I think it would be a good idea to have another independent delineation. And of course, bear in mind, we are in probably what is one of the driest years in the last 30 or 40 years, and we are in at the end of the summer. So naturally, things are quite dry out there, but nevertheless, temporal wetlands leave clues or fingerprints in the soil, which wetland scientists are trained to observe and plot on an overlay or map. And yeah, it's a fairly precise science too, I might add, in the right hands.
Okay, that's something we need to make careful note of next time we weigh in on this project, I think.
Sure.
I'm not sure actually what the process is. As I say, I'm still trying to understand that.
Yes.
Whether we should be memorializing our notes from the walkthrough that we took.
Right.
I mean, I'm in the practice of doing that in general after phone calls and after, other not this particular site visit. I've only been to a couple of planning board site visits, but it's good practice. So if you are, inclined to do that, I think that would be a good idea, because I don't know when we'll be assembling our thoughts for the next input for the planning board.
Sure.
Both of you, or everybody who went to that. Okay, and I will keep everybody informed about the date of the, what's coming up with that Pine Hill North. And at the end of the meeting, we need to talk, well, since we're talking about the planning board issues, maybe I'll bring it up now. We have another request for input on the 64 Beach Street property. And I think the packet is going to the planning board on the 21st of September. And the meeting is on the 28th. So we will need to have some sort of special meeting again between now and I could probably write it in a couple of days, if I had 48 hours from the time we met. We're not going to make that 21st of September date. We can't meet and draft anything and get it to them by September 21st. That's just an impossibility. So if everybody think about when you could meet, perhaps during the next week for an hour, and I'll contact everybody again by email, but I just want to bring that up, that just came in. And I did send an email out to everybody on the commission. Okay, so let's move on to 5.0, which is new business. We received a letter from Mainly Grass. Has everybody read this letter?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and for any of the viewers, I had asked that this be put on the town, that this letter that came from Mainly Grass, since we were going to be discussing, I wanted to make sure the public had access to it. I asked that it be put on the town website attached to the Conservation Commission agenda for today. I did not check to see if it was attached. So if any of you participating wanted to, and you didn't get a chance, you will be able to, we can send it to you after the meeting. Okay, so sorry, I need to bring that letter up on my computer. And I think if we have any questions for Mr. Higgins, I think he may be on meeting as well. But let us start with ourselves. And essentially, the letter is, he said that there are two requests in this letter. The first is clarification of the allowable types of fertilizer to be used on lawns. And the second request is exactly is the second request. Sorry. I've had, well, it's a long day before. Well, we could start out with that request. And one of the things that he says in the letter is writing fertilizer we may use on conversation on organic on cake. Means a very nice.
Yeah, patience. It's Doug. I don't know if you can hear me now, but your screen kind of locked up and your voice
Well, it
was
looks like we
breaking
may have
up.
lost her.
Yeah,
She's coming.
I wasn't sure if it was me, but I couldn't hear the last 30 seconds of what patient said as well.
I couldn't either. No.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a message again that my internet is unstable. So if I will try to come back if this happens again. I think I was in the process of just stating what is in the letter. Essentially, there were two requests. One is clarification of the allowable types of fertilizer that may be used on lawns, and the strict definition or the lawn industry creates a very finite set of products. And then there's a discussion about the words not limited to.
Peter Pan.
Sorry. Okay, then there's a statement that since getting clarification from the Conservation Commission about making this change for customers, there has been a notable degradation, and goes on to discuss lawns in general. And then there are some photographs at the end attached for various lawns and how they were once green. And then this year they are in not looking the way customers would like them to look. So is there anybody who'd like to start a discussion about this letter?
Patience, I will say Mr. Higgins is in attendance and he's raised his hand, so seems available to talk if we have questions.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we're going to start with a discussion and we have a question for him. I'm sorry, Bill, tell if you were trying to say something. Your window lit up. Well, I guess the first thing I'm wondering, I think that maybe to us quite some time ago and has been to several meetings. And I thought, I'm sorry, I'm getting the unstable again, sorry. I thought it was a result, although I've just been in conservation since last August, a year ago, last month. And that because of some of those meetings and questions, the waiver form itself for people who were not sure how to approach this problem under this ordinance. So
Your voice is cutting out a lot.
Sorry.
Patience.
Sorry, can you? Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you at the moment. Yep.
At the moment.
Reagan, can you hear me?
I can. Your video is kind of cutting in and out, but
Yeah.
you seem to be back.
Sorry, I'm.
There's definitely some clouds rolling through on in my neck of the woods, so that might be the
Is
issue
that
for
any
her.
better? Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
We can hear you for the moment. Yeah. maybe
Yeah.
try again, proceed, I guess, and we'll see if we got you.
But patience, your picture keeps freezing up.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if there's a storm or what. I'm getting that message that it's unstable.
Do we want to have the vice chair maybe lead off the discussion?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, that's a good idea. Bill, can you pick up?
yes, let me see, where? Okay, you'd like me to read the letter from Mainly Grass? Okay,
You
basically.
could, or just help with the discussion, since
Yeah.
I seem to be breaking up here.
Sure, and I hope you can hear me as well.
Clear.
Just, again, going back, maybe reiterating some of what you said, Mr. Higgins was writing with two requests. The first is a clarification of the allowable types of fertilizers we may use on lawns. And the second essentially was an issue that he was having, or was noticing with grubs, and was looking to use a insecticide. Yeah. So let's see here. He goes on to say that since getting the clarification from the commission on what's allowable, that they made a change in what they were applying on properties for their Ogunquit clients, and they have seen a noticeable degradation in the condition of lawns that they service. Our customers as well are left with deteriorating lawn vitality and hardiness. Requests that the commission allow synthetic fertilizers in lawn care so they can properly care for turf and Ogunquit. Goes on to say that like to emphasize that the use of synthetic fertilizers is in no way synonymous with pesticide or herbicide usage. From there, he went on to cite a couple of Ogunquit clients and provided some supporting photographs that were taken at different times of the year. Okay. They also submitted some soil samples and had those analyzed and attached that as well. Talks about the soil pH, organic matter in the soil, different indicators. Talks about soil tests and all the related micronutrient saturation, presence of key nutrients in the soil, and goes on to say that one of the clients' soil is deficient in potassium. Let's see here. He goes on to talk about the use of synthetic fertilizers and the amount that would be used per 1,000 square foot, et cetera. Second request again was to permit the use of a specific grub preventative compound known under the trade name of let's see, it's acelyprin. Okay. And talks about that being a synthetic pesticide. And in his estimation, it's one that warrants particular consideration. Goes on to say that it has a reduced risk. Talks about grubs being present and frequent, and a frequent common cause of lawn damage. He further states that Ogunquit has a waiver process that expressly allows for synthetic pesticides when property damage is a threat. When it comes to grubs, he states the best way to treat them is to prevent them. Okay. Goes on to talk some more about the insecticide, pesticide, and its formulation and its cost effectiveness. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Talks about certain organizations or entities using the product that he recommends, which is a synthetic pesticide, and believes that it is the intent of the ordinance while addressing the health and protection of Ogunquit that there is also a waiver process, which he is obviously aware of. Thank you for your time and consideration. And again, that's an outline of his letter. Aside from reading it in its entirety.
Thank you, Bill. Am I heard now or am I still breaking up?
No, you sound fine at the moment.
Okay, so I'm very sorry that I hope this doesn't continue, but it may. But thank you very much for that, for the parts that I heard also. I would like to discuss this, but the other thing is, I'm not sure even that the commission has the authority to grant the requests, even if we were inclined. I'm not sure that, because the town has a pesticide ordinance already in place, which we know was overwhelmingly supported by the voters on at least two occasions, both times when it was voted in. And it seems that the only way you can ask for relief from that ordinance is to ask for a waiver by filling out the form and providing all the supporting documentation. So I'm not opposed to having a discussion about the letter, but I don't really think that we have the authority, again, if we were so inclined, to grant this request.
Yes. May I say something there as well, following up on your comment?
Yes, please.
Obviously, Mr. Higgins has put some time and effort into this, and we want to give it all the attention that it deserves. But as you well know, and as he well knows, as he's alluded to in the body of his letter, that there is a waiver process here, and we have not used that, although we spent considerable time and effort creating and putting this waiver into place, which is available through the building inspector. His material here would obviously provide supportive documentation, but it does not, in my estimation, meet the criteria for consideration, because we're essentially ignoring the very pathway that we created for this purpose.
Mm. Okay. Anybody else? Reagan, is there anybody who wants to, I'm sorry, Laura, did you want to make a statement?
Yeah, I concur with Bill that I think I would like to see like a waiver submitted for consideration and proceed from there. It just seems like you know, that's the pathway forward. And I feel similarly, you know, this ordinance was voted in by the voters verbatim prior to, you know, my serving on this commission. So I don't see that, you know, my authority overrides the voters' authority on this. So I think it's a continuous discussion to look at maybe things that can be strengthened in the ordinance. You know, I will say too, we are in a drought year, like the most severe drought than I've seen in my entire life in Maine. So I do think that that's a major consideration. I will just kind of leave it at that, but I do feel like I need to just kind of make that statement as we review what's been presented to us. This isn't a normal year; it's a major drought year,
Right.
and I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. But that's all.
Thank you. Reagan, were you saying something?
Hey, it's actually Kelsey now, but there
Oh,
is
hi.
somebody that does have their hand raised. If they can speak.
Yes. Who is?
It's Palmer Higgins.
Okay, let's let Mr. Higgins speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Can everybody hear him?
Yes, I can hear him.
Excellent. Totally understand the desire to go through the proper channels, and that was actually the first idea. But having read through the language of the waiver, first part, the waiver very expressly is for non-exempt pesticides, which does not pertain to fertilizer. And so that's why I didn't submit any waiver. For part one of the letter, it was expressly about non-pesticide, nothing to do with pesticides, just the delineation between what's called straight fert or synthetic fert or non-pesticide fertilizer. And that could be, there are synthetic versions of that and there's organic versions of that. And so that I'll just sort of address that as part one. The waiver is for pesticides, not for fertilizers. Part two, the waiver is for curative measures on pesticides, which would, I think, exempt the use of a preventative measure, which again is why I didn't go through the waiver process. If you tell me that you'd like to go through the waiver process regardless, I'm happy to do so, but based on my reading, neither of the conditions that I addressed in the letter were applicable from the waiver process.
Okay, well, if that is in fact the case, and I'm still not sure we have the authority to just, you know, take all of this into consideration and make any kind of ruling on this kind of request. I think it is just, it's beyond our ability because of the ordinance of the town of Ogunquit. So I think that's probably something we have to seek some more advice on outside of this board.
Yeah, I think it was the, I think it was the intent. I think it's important to look at the intent of what was created in the ordinance and what people were voting on here. And it would, yeah, so.
So if I may, I mean, so if we break the letter into two parts, clearly I understand that the point about the trade name acelepryn as a grub preventative, that's going to be, it is a synthetic pesticide, so that's going to be directly prohibited from the ordinance. So I totally understand the need that, or the confusion or the uncertainty that the commission has the authority to even consider that as a standalone product, regardless of what the studies or the science says about it. Totally understand. For fertilizer, I think the confusion is, and one of the clarifying understandings that I had meeting with you all last fall and winter was that the ordinance itself doesn't actually expressly prohibit synthetic fertilizers, nor does it only permit organic fertilizers. And so that's that's unclear in the ordinance, and that's sort of why I'm asking for clarification specifically for the use of synthetic fertilizers. Again, to tie back to the waiver process, the waiver process grants a temporary waiver for a single or maybe two applications when I'm talking about the use of synthetic fertilizers to keep plant matter hardy, healthy, vibrant. That's a continual thing. And so to go through the waiver process, again, I'm happy to do so, but I'm looking at it right now, and based on my reading, I would have to be applying for continual waivers.
Okay,
Madam
thank you
Chair?
for your comments. I'm sorry, Doug.
Madam-
Yes, please, go ahead.
If I may, just, and I may be wrong in this, but I believe our only authority is to make recommendations. And that is the full extent of our authority. And so we can only abide by the existing ordinance and if the way the existing ordinance reads, and if there are conditions that might require a waiver, then that is the process to go through. And I would just suggest that if any waiver requests concerning this topic do come through, that because we are in moderate to severe drought conditions, we have been for quite some time, that the applicant might try to delineate effects from the drought separately from normal conditions, which may require the type of waiver that we seem to be hearing. Thank you.
Okay, oh, Laura?
I just have a question for Mr. Higgins, really. Is the request for the commission to advise on whether or not synthetic fertilizers are allowed under the ordinance, or are you requesting that we take this question up? Are you okay? Is a recommendation being sought today, or is it a question for general discussion in terms of clarification of the ordinance, which would be a more lengthy process?
Sure. So I think part one, the answer is yes. So my reading of the ordinance is that synthetic fertilizers are not prohibited. In previous conversations, in fact, other meetings, you've outlined similar provisions that not limited to and not expressly prohibited means that synthetic fertilizers are not expressly prohibited. But my understanding was that your intent was to prohibit synthetic fertilizers. So we've been complying with that intent, but the reason for the letter is to get clarification. Is that actually the intent? And if your authority is really just to abide by the letter of the ordinance, then if I could get clarification on the letter of the ordinance, then that would be helpful.
Thank you. Okay, now I understand more clearly. I'll speak to that. I think that the intent of the ordinance is that the voter passed intent of the ordinance is that synthetic fertilizers are not allowed under the ordinance. But regardless of what I feel about it, and I do think that that is the intent of the ordinance. It's my personal opinion on it. So, anyone else?
Yeah, I
No,
would have, go ahead.
I think we may have to seek, some advice on this issue in general.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it's something that we probably can't solve here at the moment in
Right.
terms of, an out of the box answer. Yeah, I tend to feel, the same way as what Laura said. I think, people's intent was one thing, and without having a discussion and without having the time to really revisit that again, I think we need to reserve reserve our answers for another time.
Yeah.
Right. Valerie is joining us, so I just want to make a note that at 4:45, Valerie has joined the meeting. Hello, Valerie.
Hi there.
Have you been able to hear any of the discussion? Did you want to make any comments, or are you just joining us cold?
I did hear part of the discussion, and I do think that we need to look at it further. I think a little bit more needs to be researched. I don't quite know, who we turn to get more clarification, but it seems to me that the intent is to ban the product in questions, but I don't know. We'd have to look further into it, I think.
Yeah, and I'd like to clarify my comments too. Like, I fully respect, Mr. Higgins' request for more specificity in the ordinance, and I definitely think that it's something that we can look at. But in terms of if I had to give an answer today, if the applicant was looking for an answer today, I could only weigh in with my personal opinion that having not been on the commission when this ordinance was passed, I would want to proceed with caution to make sure I was in alignment with the voter intention on this, which conservatively I would say that the intent would be to not allow synthetic fertilizers. So I think it's a longer discussion for ongoing meetings. And
Yeah, I think we may have to seek some outside advice beyond our.
Sure. I had a question if I might be able to ask of Mr. Higgins. On page 1 of your letter of August 19, 2020, on the last paragraph, you refer to Craig's lawn and the fact that in Exhibit 1 shows pictures of the lawn in both 2018 and 2019 in, quote, great condition. As you can see in Exhibit 2, however, Craig's lawn has struggled immensely in 2020, despite maintaining the same cultural practices. So, in fact, the only thing that was different in 2020 compared to the previous years was a switch to organic fertilizer. So you were using synthetic fertilizer, but of course, left out of that statement, as Laura mentioned, was the weather and in the moisture regime for 2020 as opposed to 2018 and 2019. So you were using synthetic fertilizers during 2018 and 19, despite the ordinance being in place then, and just decided to switch in 2020, or?
I mean, yes, synthetic fertilizer was being used. It wasn't we decided to switch. It was my involvement. I became involved in Mainly Grass, and I started joining the committee meetings and got clarification that, in fact, the first committee meeting I attended, this same group was talking about how confusing it was to have the phrase "not limited to" and then have synthetic fertilizers not be in subsection B of section 1102, and have those two paragraphs, 1102.4 and 1102.5, are talking about the prohibition of chemical pesticides, which is different from synthetic fertilizers. So when I got that clarification that yes, it's a confusing ordinance, yes, it's not clear, but yes, the intent was to ban synthetics, then we made the switch.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that. And would you say that the fact that you overlooked the moisture regimes in those years or didn't compare them had any impact on Craig's lawn?
I could pull stats on rain data from 2018 to 2019 to 2020. Clearly,
Yeah.
we've had less rain this year. There's no question. I can pull up stats for this year right
Sure.
now. I think a key thing to keep in consideration is that Craig's Lawn is irrigated. So that modifies to a huge extent
Okay,
the effect of rainfall.
yeah, depending on depending on how it was watered from year to year, of course.
Sure,
Well,
I'm not going to have data on that.
No, I wouldn't expect you would, but thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
I can quantify just, for your edification, we track rainfall data now, just started doing it this year, I guess a little bit fortuitous given our rain conditions. York County, we do it on a county level on a year-to-date basis, has had 3.5-ish inches less of total rainfall on a season-to-date basis. We define that as April through, this
Right.
data is through
Right,
July, and so that represents about 28 to 25% less rainfall. So
right,
it is definitely a factor. But
right.
I think the soil test data also highlights some macronutrient deficiencies as well. So I wouldn't
Sure.
chalk it up to pure water. And again, because his lawn's irrigated,
Yeah,
that rainfall shortage is mitigated by the irrigation
Sure.
system.
sure. And I think you might agree, numbers can be a little misleading when you talk about percentage differences, depending on how the intervals stack up. If you front load the season with a lot of rain and then you have a drought as opposed to having, rainfall at fairly close intervals. So that can be a little misleading, but yeah, that's another aspect of the statistic that needs to be addressed, obviously. But thank you for that.
Okay, is there anything else we can tell Mr. Higgins? All right, thank you for attending the meeting. We are going to seek some further advice on these issues.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the
And you are
consideration.
welcome to contact the Conservation Commission.
Will do.
Laura, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just,
Oh, waiting?
yes, yeah, thanks.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for attending.
Reagan, is there anyone who wants to speak on this issue or any other issue at the moment?
No, there is not.
Okay, and I've lost my agenda, of course. Sorry, folks. I think, was I going to mention the website? Or is there something else? Sorry. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about public education. Back earlier before the COVID started, we talked about, attending different conferences. I think that's not happening live anyway, but if anybody knows of anything that's coming up via Zoom or other webinars that would be helpful to us or any of us, please share that information. I also wanted to work on the website, and I'm attempting to do that. If you would like to help participate, please send me an email. Or if you have a 13-year-old who wants to help, we really need to bring that up to date. And I think that maybe it was Mr. Baker who was doing that on his own. And it is quite a task for just one person. He really had a lot of information on there and was, running a blog and everything else. So it really is my hope to get that up and bring it up to date. If anyone, also Doug, I think you had the original design for the decals. I think we should either order those or have a new design, stick to maybe the same design, but have it refreshed, or do
Yeah,
you
it was
still have
Mike
access to
Horn.
that?
It was Mike Horn who had the original decals made. So I think that he has those original designs. I will make inquiries, but
Okay, maybe you could send the design around. Is everybody familiar with that design?
Yes, I saw it on the
Yes.
website just recently, actually, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, is there any reason to change that, or should we stick with what we have already, since that's a known logo?
Yep, I think it's
And it's
nice.
quite, yeah, it is quite nice. Okay. So if you could reach out, or you want to reach out to Mr. Horn and see if he has that original artwork?
Sure. And as Val just suggested, that the design may be on the website. I don't know.
Yes, it is.
Uh-huh.
Right,
On
but
the
I don't know.
On the Concom website.
Right,
Yes.
it is there, but can we grab it in a way that it's good enough to send to any kind of company
Yeah,
for printing?
I see. Yes, so I will reach out to Mike Horn and see if he does have hard copies of it
Okay,
that
that would be
we can
great.
use, because I also think that it's a very good design.
Mm.
It
It's
is,
well
it's
done.
quite, yeah, it's quite good.
Yeah.
Okay, our next Zoom meeting would be the third Thursday in October, which is October 15th. But as I said, I'm going to send an email around because we're meant to weigh in on another planning board application. And that's everything I have. And if you have comments, please, or if anybody who's watching would like to make any comments, this would be the time to do it. Reagan, do we have anybody?
No, there's no comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, last thoughts? George, you waving?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about the last time, and I'm sorry I couldn't make the meetings and everything. I think Patience and I talked about it briefly. I think everybody should, go down to the beach and take a look at where the sign number 3 is on the dunes. I had a brief conversation at the beginning of summer with Pat about it. It's getting pretty bad down there, and I don't know if maybe we could put it on the agenda if everybody got a chance to look at it. There's not much dunes left in that section. So if everybody could get a look at it, maybe we could put it on one of our agendas and send something to Pat, or
Mhm.
maybe get the wheel rolling for somebody to, get their head out of the sand and look at it professionally, because I think we're going to have problems there. And I'd rather see
Excuse me,
somebody. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Doug.
George, yeah, I don't know if you can be any more specific at all, but what do you think is bad about the area around number 3? Is it the back dunes?
Yeah, it's the back dunes. I'm sorry. It's the back part of the dunes, and there's not much. I haven't had a chance to get a tape measure on it or something, but between I don't know if anybody knows, we had quite a few deer down at the beach this year, and between them trampling through and people that don't read the signs and go up through there, it's really eroding a lot. And a lot of people have mentioned it, and I brief conversation with Pat, like I mentioned, 17. It just seems like, I mean, if we all looked at it and we had a little at our agenda, maybe we could fire off a letter or something to Pat. And I know there's a lot on her plate, but it's getting bad. I've been watching him for a while, and it's just, you can see where people have walked up in there, and in the spring we saw the deer coming through there, and it's getting, it's getting bad. And I know the dunes are fragile, but I mean, maybe if we all got to look at and put our comments together and send a letter off to somebody, and Pat could forward it, that we're concerned, and let them know that, hey, this needs to be addressed. Or maybe somebody with more knowledge of that type thing could look at it and say, no, it doesn't need to be addressed. It's all right. But in my opinion, it looks like there's a problem there.
Thank you, George.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you take a walk on the beach, you'll see it. But everything else on the beach looks good.
Oh, thanks for bringing that to our attention, George.
All righty.
Yeah, check it out too.
And I know I heard the surf is good, Laura.
Really good.
Yeah, good.
Yep. And how's the water temperature?
Yesterday, I think it was 62. It's not bad.
Nice. That's nice.
Not bad with a wetsuit.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're wrapped up. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a comment actually, if
Yes.
that's okay. Yeah, I just want to say I am absolutely thrilled that the select board voted to move this forward with the Old Boston Farm. And, you know, for anyone listening at home, this is just a phenomenal opportunity for the town of Ogunquit to help conserve this land for perpetuity. I was out hiking at Hilton Wynd this weekend with Dave. And if you're at the Hilton Wynd Preserve, off Ogunquit Road in Cape Nettic, you know, heading up Berwick Road and head out on Ogunquit Road. If you take the loop trail and you come to the corner of the loop trail, there's a survey pin. And if you look further down the Ogunquit River, that's the Old Boston Farm parcel. And it's just gorgeous. It's such an important part of filtering and cleaning the Ogunquit River watershed. And I just feel so grateful that this opportunity has really fallen in the laps of the people of Ogunquit to help steward this just absolutely beautiful piece of land that's really the cornerstone for, you know, a valuable and desirable place to live. So just vote in favor of this as it comes to the election. That's my personal opinion. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and I would just
Laura.
add to that, thank you very much, Laura. The
Yes.
thing I'll add to that is that it's not just an isolated parcel of land. This is joining up with what is already a large contiguous parcel. And when it does become conserved land, people should be able to walk from that land all the way over Mount Agameticus and to the, oops, excuse me, I just lost my screen for a second. To be able to walk all the way from that parcel, contiguous land, all the way to the York River, which is a tremendous thing.
It's a
That's
tremendous.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
So I do know that the Land Trust is offering a few different tours. You can contact the Land Trust office. And then, but again, if people just wanted to get a little glimpse, if you take those already established trails out to the Loop Trail at Hilton Wynd, there's a corner where you're just facing right out to this one side of this parcel. So that's a quick, maybe 20-minute hike out. So
It's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I was in touch briefly with Danielle from Great Works Land Trust, and she had said that at some point they were thinking of offering a walkthrough to the conservation mission specifically. So I don't know if that has come through at all, Patience.
I have not received info on that,
Okay.
but I can reach out to them, or if you'd like to, that would be great.
I can do that. I am taking the tour on Saturday with my family, so
Nice.
I'll inquire about that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, it is great. It is very exciting, actually. All right, on that note, shall we adjourn?
Sure.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Indeed.
All in favor? Thank
Okay,
you.
nice to see you all.
Nice seeing you.
Yep. Thank
Good
you,
night.
everybody.
Thank you
Keep
all.
up the good work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Be
And
well.
to go try to check the beach, George.
Yes.
Oh,
Number
yes.
three.
Yep.
Number
Number
three.
3.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, George.
Okay, have a good
Bye-bye.
night. Thank you.
You.
Who wills?